of the Mayflower Turners, but that's never been verified. Having each been born to parents who had the fortitude to cover half the continent in covered wagons, Jonathan and Harriet continued in the self-sufficient ways of the pioneer tradition which was their legacy. They produced 12 children. Arthur Ermy, my grandfather, was their first son. I came to know Grandpa Arthur very well, but Jonathan I met only once, on a very memorable occasion which I describe later. Like his parents and grandparents before him, Grandpa Arthur married a pioneer woman, Emma Fry, who was also the descendant of first settlers in Iowa. Both were still in their teens when they wed, and they immediately set up housekeeping on a farm in Monroe Township, about 3 miles from Garrison. They had 8 children. 2 boys and 2 girls died before the age of 2. 4 daughters, including my mother, Merle, and my Aunt Hazel, survived. Emma Fry's family, like Grandpa's folks, had immigrated to Iowa around the 1850s, crossing the country from Pennsylvania by covered wagon. But by nature, the Frys were just about the opposite of the Ermys. They looked at life as a jolly event. They could and did spend money on luxury items. It was Emma's family who provided the young couple with a dowry that included a double set of Haviland china, real silver, and fine bed and table linens. The Frys spent money on chocolate, cosmetics, entertainment, clothing, barber shop haircuts, and even moderate amounts of alcohol, all without consuming themselves with guilt. As a child, my assessment of them was that they were a very cheery bunch of relatives. However, it was the Ermys, not the Frys, who would set the tone of our family life. Coming from a background firmly rooted in the New England Puritan tradition, the Ermys could easily have served as models for the source of H.L. Mencken's definition of Puritanism as the haunting fear that someone, somewhere, may be happy. They were a somber lot, generally speaking. To them, life was a serious challenge, and they brooked few frivolities. They read the Bible, prayed every day, and entertained themselves by critiquing the minister's Sunday sermons and quarreling over his interpretations of the Bible. One perpetual topic of debate was whether miracles were still happening, for God was real to them, and his actions a source of constant interest and discussion. Anyone careless enough to lay a knife or a pair of scissors on my grandparents' Bible could expect a hard knuckle rap on the head, for we were taught to respect God and his word above all else. It was into this background that my mother, my 2 brothers, my baby sister, and I were precipitously thrust when I was little more than 5 years old. The year was around 1930. The Depression was imminent, as was the terrible weather that would become known as the Dirty 30s. Hard times were going to be especially difficult for us in the decade that followed, for we were without a breadwinner and would be completely dependent on the largesse of Grandma and Grandpa Ermy, 2 very strict and stern individuals. For us children, building character, developing a sense of responsibility, and above all, improving one's mind would become the essential focus of our lives. One of my earliest and most vivid memories was when Grandma apparently decided that my puny 12-month-old sister Avis should be weaned, and snatched the nursing baby from my mother's breast. The tiny infant wailed at the top of her lungs. "Let her cry," Grandma declared. "You can't begin character building too soon." A few years ago, a friend whose background is somewhat akin to mine reported that his father used to assemble him and his 4